The hum of the lawnmower was the summer symphony I adored, a melody of blades dancing, slicing through the green sea that stretched around my modest home, a refuge of tranquility. The sun played its part too, casting warm golden hues that transformed ordinary grass into a shimmering emerald tapestry. I reveled in this quiet kingdom, my kingdom, where each blade of grass stood as testament to my careful stewardship. But harmony, I would soon learn, could be as fleeting as a summer breeze. The chairs had arrived, unbidden, but not unwelcome. Crafted with the dexterity of tradition, each piece was a celebration of craftsmanship. Mahogany arms polished to a fine sheen, cushions that cradled like a gentle embrace. They were a surprise, a gift from an unexpected ally, the mayor himself, a gesture of goodwill, he'd said, for services rendered to the community. I placed them proudly on my lawn, a spot of comfort where one might ponder the world's mysteries or simply bask in the sun's gentle caress. But not everyone shared my appreciation. Karen, my neighbor and the self-appointed sentinel of our homeowners association, viewed my home through a different lens. Her gaze was not one of admiration, but of scrutiny, each glance a precise incision aimed at dissecting imperfection. Her world was one of manicured laws and bylaws, a realm where deviation was as treacherous as her perfectly kept rose bushes were sharp. The first letter arrived quietly, tucked under my door, a missive of discontent. My offense? The placement of my cherished lawn chairs. They disrupted the visual harmony, she claimed, a blight against the covenant of conformity. Her words, though wrapped in the guise of formality, dripped with the acidity of her disdain. I pondered her complaint as one might consider a curious insect. It was a small matter, trivial even in the grand scheme of life. I could have moved the chairs, but they were a gift, a token of appreciation, and moving them would mean something more, an admission perhaps, that I valued her arbitrary rules more than the quiet gratitude they represented. So, I chose patience. I chose understanding. The chairs stayed, defiant and resolute as sentinels guarding my serenity. Weeks passed, each day a reminder of the calm I sought to preserve. But Karen's discontent simmered, a pot on the verge of boiling over, and her eyes grew sharper, her lips tighter. It was during one of those perfect summer evenings when the air was thick with the scent of blooming wisteria and the laughter of children echoed down our sleepy street, that the inevitable happened. The wail of sirens pierced the tranquil night like a dagger, carving an unexpected rift in the fabric of our community. Karen had called 911. The absurdity of the situation was not lost on me. Emergency responders summoned to address the peril of misaligned lawn furniture. In that moment, I felt the weight of the world's irony settle upon my shoulders. Yet, beneath it all, there was an ember of something else. Determination, perhaps. A quiet resolve. This was not a battle I had chosen, but it was one I would face, armed with the knowledge that some wars are not fought with might, but with patience and wit. As the patrol car pulled up, lights painting the evening in red and blue, I stood quietly. The officer's expression was one of bemusement, a testament to the surreal comedy unfolding before him. I nodded in understanding, a silent acknowledgement of the farce that bound us in this unlikely play. Karen watched from her porch, a queen surveying her domain, but beneath her veneer of control there was something else, a flicker of uncertainty. Perhaps she realized that the rules she clung to could not shield her from the quiet power of resilience. As the officer approached, I felt a smile tug at the corners of my lips. It was time to embrace the storm with grace. The sun cast its usual golden glow over our suburban enclave, a reminder of the small-town charm that enticed many to settle here, charm marred by the increasingly absurd antics of Karen, our HOA queen. After the lawn chair debacle, a quiet storm brewed, one that would soon manifest in a downpour of regulations and paranoia. It started innocuously enough with a notice slipped under my door, its crisp weight a portend of the bureaucratic burdens it contained. The paper crackled against my fingertips, its inked demands as rigid as the woman who likely penned it. A new rule. All garden furniture must be of acceptable community standards. An ambiguous edict, surely designed to ensnare me and my scandalous outdoor seating. Days drifted into weeks, and with them came a barrage of citations, each one a testament to Karen's escalating campaign of propriety. My azaleas, apparently, were too vibrant. Their blossoms, a riot of reds and pinks, violated some unwritten chromatic code. The mailbox, a sturdy relic from the previous owner, was suddenly non-compliant with aesthetic guidelines. Even the wind chimes, a gentle tinkle in the evening breeze, became an affront to neighborhood peace. Karen's reach extended beyond mere documentation. Her whispered words, laced with the poison of speculation, wove a web throughout the community. The postman, once a cheerful fellow with a ready smile, now offered only perfunctory nods. Neighbors, whose names I'd known for years, began eyeing me with suspicion, their gazes averted when I waved from the driveway. I wondered at times if the world had tilted overnight, leaving me in some parallel universe where reason was supplanted by an ever-growing list of grievances. Yet, there was a certain absurdity to it all that I couldn't help but marvel at. It was as if we were characters in a theater of the absurd, each citation, each whispered word, an act in Karen's meticulously crafted play. Yet, amidst the chaos, a quiet strength stirred within me. I refused to be a mere spectator in her drama. My lawn chairs, gifts from the mayor himself, stood resolute on their patch of grass, a small rebellion against the tide of regulations. They were more than furniture. They were a symbol of camaraderie, a gesture from a friend recognizing my contributions to the community. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet, I caught sight of Karen's silhouette in the distance, clipboard in hand, her posture one of satisfaction. I wondered what she saw, what she believed she was protecting. It was then, in the twilight silence, that I realized something profound. Karen's actions, her relentless pursuit of perfect order, masked a deeper insecurity, a fear of losing control in a world that rarely offers guarantees. The absurdity, the citations, the gossip, they were armor against the chaos she couldn't tame. Perhaps, in understanding this, I found my own armor, a quiet resolve to weather her storm, to remain unbowed amidst the tempest of her making. The mayor's chairs would stay, but, more importantly, so would I, unshaken, a calm amidst her self-created storm. The sun had barely dipped below the horizon when I decided it was time. Time to take action, not with the aggression of a scorned warrior, but with the careful precision of a chess player, every move deliberate, every piece in its rightful place. Karen had made her move by calling 911 over my lawn chairs, a gift from the mayor, no less. Now, it was my turn. I started with a camera, hidden but effective, a small black eye nestled among the ivy that skirted the edge of my porch, capturing each of Karen's fastidious patrols and her incessant scrutinizing of my property. Documentation, they say, is power, and so I documented. Every glance, every exaggerated sigh when she crossed an imaginary boundary into what she deemed her jurisdiction. The footage was a silent film of pettiness and privilege, her self-righteous crusade immortalized in ones and zeros. Next came the subtle counter. Not confrontational, not yet. That would come later, if at all. The lawn chairs, those innocuous artifacts of my defiance, remained in their rightful place. But now, they bore a new addition. Cushions emblazoned with the town's emblem. a gentle nod to their origin, a reminder that these were not ordinary chairs, and perhaps a silent taunt, a whisper in the wind that said, "You're picking the wrong battle." I watched from my window as Karen approached, her stride as purposeful as ever. She stopped, eyes narrowing at the cushions. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. I imagined I could hear the cogs turning in her head, the clash between indignation and doubt. She was uncertain now, wary of the implications. The mayor's emblem was a shield, a declaration of belonging, of acceptance, a line she hesitated to cross. In that moment, a part of me felt sorry for her, a small fleeting pity for someone so wrapped in rules and regulations that they became chains. But I shook it off. She had chosen this path, and I had chosen mine. The next day I made my way to the town hall, not to complain, not to escalate, but to display my cards face up on the table. I approached the mayor with a calm confidence, the kind that comes from knowing one is on the right side of a storm. I described the situation not with the vitriol of a victim, but with the amusement of an observer of human folly. The mayor, a kind face etched with years of public service, nodded along, understanding the subtext of community and power. "I trust you to handle this," he said finally, his voice a gentle breeze against the storm clouds of Karen's pettiness. That was all I needed. Not orders, not interference, just the quiet assurance that came with being heard by someone who mattered. Back home, the chairs stood as they always had, silent sentinels of my small patch of rebellion. And Karen, well, she too remained unchanged, patrolling, judging, forever entangled in her web of authority. But now, as I watched her retreat back into the confines of her own fortress, I knew she was aware of the boundaries, and I, with my camera and cushions, had drawn them anew. The officer's visit had left a sharp, uncomfortable silence lingering in the air, like the aftermath of a summer storm. I watched from my window as he drove away, my mind cycling through the events with the slow, deliberate pace of a pendulum swinging in an empty room. My lawn chairs sat innocently in the yard, their vibrant colors now dulled under the oppressive weight of Karen's scrutiny. Gifts from the mayor himself. They were more than just chairs. They were symbols of community, of connection. Yet here they were, embroiled in a petty territorial squabble that defied logic. I had no illusions about Karen. Her tyranny over the neighborhood was as predictable as the changing seasons. She wielded the HOA rules like a sword, ready to cut down any hint of individuality that dared to bloom. Her latest stunt was an escalation, a public spectacle meant to cow me into submission. But I'd never been one to back down quietly. I had learned that some battles were not won in the open arena, but in the quiet halls of justice, where reason held sway over rhetoric. So I began my meticulous work, researching, documenting, and preparing. The HOA bylaws were a labyrinth of legal jargon, but I navigated them with the patience of an archaeologist unearthing an ancient city. Every clause, every amendment was examined under the lens of my growing resolve. It was there, nestled between innocuous paragraphs about hedge heights and mailbox colors, that I found my sanctuary, a provision that invoked the town's historical preservation laws. It was a long shot, but one worth taking. The chairs, after all, were no ordinary pieces of furniture. They were crafted by a local artisan, each one a testament to our town's cultural tapestry. Their presence in my yard was not a violation, but a celebration of heritage, a notion that resonated powerfully within the framework of the code. With every document filed, I felt a mosaic coming together, each piece clicking into place with satisfying precision. Mail was sent, emails exchanged, conversations were had, not in loud public showdowns, but in measured, respectful exchanges with those who valued harmony over dogma. Karen's reaction was predictable. Her anger simmered in furtive glances, her frustration palpable in the rigid set of her jaw during board meetings. But she underestimated the quiet power of persistence and the strength of a community that values authenticity over conformity. Weeks passed in this tense equilibrium. The day of reckoning arrived like a whisper, not a shout. There were no grand announcements, no public declarations. Just a simple letter delivered to my mailbox, bearing the official seal of the board. I opened it with a steady hand, the paper crisp under my fingers. The verdict was there in black and white, a ruling in favor of preserving the chairs as historical pieces, a small, quiet triumph in the grand tapestry of neighborhood life. Karen's empire of control was not dismantled overnight, but a crack had appeared in its foundation, and that was enough. Enough to remind her, and perhaps myself, that true power lies not in the loudest voice, but in the steadfast whisper of justice and truth. The lawn chairs remained, resolute and vibrant under the sun, untouched by the storms of petty feud. They stood as a testament to resilience and community spirit, an emblem of victory that needed no further proclamation. The sun hung low, casting long shadows across the cul-de-sac, as if the neighborhood itself was stretching and sighing in anticipation of what was to come. The air was thick with an expectant buzz, a shared understanding that the days of HOA Karen's reign were waning. Her audacious 911 call over my lawn chairs, a quaint gift from the mayor himself, had been the tipping point, a final straw that broke the unspoken contract of civility we all silently agreed to uphold. Neighbors had begun to gather in small clusters, whispers mingling with the scent of freshly cut grass. There was an electricity in the air, a collective breath held in anticipation of the evening's meeting. The HOA had called it an emergency session, sparked by the fiasco of the lawn chair incident and the unwanted police presence that had followed. It was the first time in a long while people seemed eager to attend, faces alight with a mix of indignation and hope. I sat on my porch, the lawn chairs arranged just so, their vibrant colors standing defiant against the muted backdrop of early evening. They were a symbol now, a quiet rebellion against the monotony and control Karen had imposed. The mayor's words echoed in my mind, a reminder of community and kindness, far removed from the petty grievances that had plagued us. As dusk settled, we all made our way to the community center, footsteps punctuating the transition from individual discontent to collective resolve. Karen arrived last, her entrance less grand than usual, the weight of scrutiny pinning her down. There was a vulnerability to her now, a crack in the once impenetrable armor of self-righteousness. Inside, the room buzzed with tension. As the meeting began, the usual procedural dryness was absent. Tonight was different. Tonight, the community felt alive. Voices raised not in complaint, but in unity. The board, usually a mere extension of Karen's will, seemed invigorated by the palpable shift. Discussions flowed, grievances aired, and beneath it all, an undercurrent of transformation took hold. I watched Karen, her face a portrait of disbelief, a shifting canvas of anger and confusion. The power she had wielded so casually was slipping away, each word spoken another thread in the unraveling tapestry of her control. She shifted in her seat, a queen unseated, now just another voice among many. The meeting reached its climax with a motion to revise the HOA bylaws, an empowered community eager to reclaim its voice. A vote was called, hands raising in unison, an almost sacred act of liberation. Karen's hand remained lowered, a silent protest in a sea of change. In that moment, a realization settled over me. Karen was not the monster we had painted her to be, but a product of her fears and insecurities, amplified by authority. Her downfall was not a victory to be celebrated, but a lesson in the strength of community and the frailty of unchecked power. As the meeting adjourned, the room buzzed with renewed camaraderie. People lingered, shaking hands, speaking in tones of optimism and relief. The air was lighter now, the oppressive weight of Karen's reign lifting, allowing us all to breathe easier. Outside, the night was cool, stars pinpricks of light in a vast, forgiving sky. I returned to my lawn chairs, sitting quietly as the neighborhood faded into stillness. Karen's house stood dark and silent, a fortress abandoned. One by one, neighbors trickled past, nodding, smiling, acknowledging the subtle shift in our world. The lawn chairs, once a point of contention, were now a testament to resilience, a quiet reminder of how a simple act of defiance can ripple through a community, reshaping it for the better. And so the night carried on, the neighborhood settling into a new rhythm, the echoes of change still resonant in the cool, quiet air.